What single scene ruined an entire movie franchise TV series? Jaime Lannister going back to Cersei, 8 seasons of character development, out the window in 5 minutes. Still hurts to think about. May already be on here, but Scrubs had an amazing last scene. JD seeing his happy future as he says goodbye to Sacred Heart, but then they made another season. What I find most frustrating about that is that the producers of the 9th season intended it to be a spin-off show. The network kind of forced them to call it Scrubs Season 9 because of Scrubs' success. If it hadn't been named Scrubs, it probably would have been a decent season show. Source: some episode of Zach Braff's and Donald Faison's podcast. I really hated that in the movie for 12 years a slave they had him hook up with a woman while he was a slave. In his book, it's a true story that he wrote himself after getting out. He says he stayed faithful to his wife the whole time. I don't care if someone thought the audience wouldn't believe that. It's wrong for them to insert something like that when he clearly stated he didn't. Honestly, the Red John reveal in The Mentalist kinda pee me off. It just felt like they had a hat with every minor character name in it and just picked one. Their boss Bertram would probably have been a good Red John, as at least he was a rather important person in the story. The final 5 minutes of the original Roseanne. Dan died, the sisters swapped husbands, mom's gay, Jackie's gay, this was all a book. The final season was a nightmare and creatively depleted, so the writing room decided to try a retcon and failed. Not really a thing at the time. It doesn't fix the sheer terribleness of the last season, but I'll give them credit for trying to breathe new life into an already dead entity. George Clooney cut himself loose from a space station in order to save Sandra Bullock. His velocity was 0 relative to the station. He wouldn't have fell and he wasn't pulling her down. It's crazy too, because it's not like they couldn't have had the exact same thing happen. Son the balls. Like, if they both were floating away at a low velocity and no tether, couldn't he push her towards the station, launching himself away from it? Why make it so obvious that the sacrifice was, you know, not real? Poochie leaving for his home planet. Like WTF, they just introduced this rad character for Itchy and Scratchy to hang with and then he just leaves? They didn't even make it to the goddamn fireworks factory. The Dothraki charge into the Night King's army. I just sat there and told myself, what the frick is this ridiculous crap? We have the greatest mobile archers the world has ever seen. Let's let them charge en masse. A tactic that largely depends on the defenders breaking due to fear, directly into an enemy that is literally undead and cannot feel fair. The moment I heard how they pronounced Ong's name in M. Night's adaptation of Avatar instantly killed me with laughter, as well as, you know, the whole movie. I think the whole movie ruined the whole movie. Arya going to King's Landing to kill Cersei. Jaime almost died in a fight. They should have let him die. Arya finds him, takes his face, becomes Jaime, goes to Cersei. She dies in his arms after he stabs her. Prophecy fulfilled. Then she shows Cersei it was her as she's dying. But she can't kill the Night King and Cersei because she never should have killed the Not King. Jon Snow was supposed to kill the Night King. Just once. It would have been nice to have something happen that was expected. They got so obsessed with surprises that they ruined some major plot opportunities. Jaime's actor has said that he was convinced they building to an Arya twist until he turned the page of his script book and there wasn't anything else written. Every Doctor Hospitaler show depicting physicians getting involved in patients' private lives once they leave medical care. Seriously? No physician around here does that unless he's trying to get laid. Unless he's trying to get laid. The ending of Sex and the City. Sorry kids, but in real life Big wouldn't have chased Carrie to Paris and things magically work out for them. I would have been much happier with Carrie riding off into the sunset as a happy single gal who's not ready to settle for a guy who jerked her around for years. And I'm a happily ever after movie TV show kinda person. But it just didn't fit the narrative of SATC for me. And those movies, all of a sudden they're all high fashion models, even Miranda. Cole Grimes' death. Frick Scott Gimble or whatever his name is. They really did that kid wrong on the show and in real life. That's gotta be the scene from season 12 from Doctor Who, where they explain that the Doctor is not from this universe and that the people who found her stole the secret to practical immortality from her. This single scene rewrote everything we know about the Doctor and destroyed the legacy of one of the longest running TV shows. Rip William Hartnell, you will always be the first Doctor in my heart. Plus the whole point of the Doctor is that they were nothing special for a Time Lord, but had to become something special to survive and to make a place for themselves in the universe. Now the writers are just like lol they were born special, they didn't do crap to make themselves something, it's innate. I'm so upset. How I Met Your Mother 9 years of development and growth ends up trashed with 90 seconds of Barney and Robin getting divorced. Mom makes a cameo and Ted and Robin hook up. I have never gone back and watched a single rerun because of that debacle. Just turn it off the second Ted says and that kids is How I Met Your Mother. Who has a better story than Bran the Broken? I loved Supernatural, and everything was pretty perfect all the way through season 5. Good character development, redemption arcs, tying the original storyline up with a nice bow. Sam will be trapped forever, but in doing so redeems himself and saves the Earth. Dean might finally have a chance at happiness and the stable home life he deserves. And then nope. Sneaky last moment of the last episode of season 5. Sam has escaped from heck and is back on Earth. So everyone get ready for like 8 more seasons of this. 10 more. Show just ended after 15 seasons. The Star Trek Into Darkness scene where the Doctor chick just gets undressed. It's so dumb, because in the very next scene she is wearing the exact same clothes as she was before. Why did she get undressed? It definitely wasn't to change, so who knows? It was to make the thumbnail of the trailer. That kiss scene in Prince Caspian, not in the book, made no sense in the context of the story, but for some frickin' reason they decided to shoehorn it in and sprinkle a load of sexual tension throughout the film leading up to it. Totally ruined the film, and given how crap Dawn Treader was, I think Prince Caspian was the beginning of the end of that series. The last 5 minutes of the X-Files reboot. It was already on shaky ground as a reboot, but man, there couldn't have possibly been a dumber ending to a show. You can even see Duchovny and Anderson's confusion and disappointment and annoyance during the scene. Anderson doesn't even try to hide it. Such a bummer. Palpatine being alive. Taking away my criticisms of the first 2 of that trilogy, him being alive completely ruins the story of the original 6. The redemption of Anakin Skywalker. Oh man, where to even start with Game of Thrones? When Deb fricking confessed her love toward Dexter, who the frick confesses romantic feelings to their brother? I don't care he was her adopted brother, it's still her fricking brother. Entirely ruined the rest of the show for me. The stupid therapist put the idea into her head, too. She didn't even feel that way until then. Dear writers, don't do this. It is even more awkward when you realize that Jennifer Carpenter and Michael C. Hall were in the middle of divorce while making this season. The kiss between Sharon Carter and Captain America in Civil War. Why did they kiss in the first place and why was it never addressed again? Because, if you have an opening to kiss Captain America, you take it. The last season of Sons of Anarchy was pretty awful, but there was one where they took on a group of former military guys by hiding in an obvious place and the experienced vets never saw it and got killed. Game of Thrones when Samwell Tarly suggests that the kingdom be ruled by the people and everyone laughs. That was so stupid. There's more than a couple of videos floating around where they insert canned sitcom laughs onto the scenes from the last 15 minutes or so of the final episode, and it completely fits the cheap comedy they went for. Bad Boys 2. The car chase in the countryside through the town village. It was only a 40-second car chase that was cut, clipped, edited poorly. If you watch it, look how many times the driver's side mirror on the H2 magically breaks and is reattached, only to break again and again. I still enjoy the franchise. I just dislike that. When Zach left American Gladiators in 1995, the reboot they tried crashed and burned. They tried to make it all 21st century with this as Camille. She is a recovering gambling addict, and here is a 10-minute reel about how she nursed 18 puppies back to life while her brother died of double AIDS. The old one was so much better because we only knew the contestants based on how they performed. It was like, this is Bob. He's a teacher. Let's see how he does in the power ring against a literal bodybuilder, and then you got to cheer or grimace as Bob either juked the heck out of Zap and Blaze or got his buns handed to him. This is exactly why I find American Ninja Warrior to be almost unwatchable. The original Ninja Warrior, the one they aired in Japan, was for a long time just, here's this contestant. He's a firefighter from Tokyo. Let's see if he fricks up on the first obstacle. Then gradually over time they had recurring contestants and they'd play old clips or something in between runs to fill time. And the more famous ones would get to show off their training regimen or whatever. But most of the time it was just rookie amateur contestants who were barely given an introduction. If you watch the American version, they have more highlight reels of here's what happened during the break than they do actual contestant runs, because they tell their whole goddamn life story, explain how their sick relative has super cancer or their dog ran away or whatever, and that's what motivates them to try their hardest and win. I'd be fine with it if they were down to just a handful of contestants left and they used the time that would normally be spent during qualifier semi-final showing multiple contestants for feel-good story time instead, since there are fewer runs per episode, but they have so much filler garbage that can honestly be cut out to show more content. I can't fathom why they waste so much of an episode showing anything other than a contestant running the course. When Rory ended up pregnant, not to mention completely washed up, in the Gilmore Girls revival, I don't even mind that she wasn't a successful journalist. She really never had the personality for that career, and it was realistic for the time period that she graduated. But I hated how she was Logan's side piece while cheating on her poor boyfriend who she could never remember to break up with, and he seemed like a genuinely good guy. Also, Luke and Lorelai, living together for 10 years and the subject of marriage and kids apparently just never came up. Lane seemed happy, even though I never really liked her and Zach together. Jess seemed to be doing well too. And TBH, Rory at this point doesn't deserve him. The only good storyline was Emily's Imo. After Richard's death she had to learn to be her own person outside of their marriage. I absolutely loved when she became a guide at the museum and terrified all the kids. I know they'll probably never make more, so in my head once Logan finds out the baby is his they realize they still love each other and finally decide to just be together. The last 5-10 minutes of Veronica Mars. What always hits me is what it means for Don Casablancas. He started out as just the worst, most awful dirtbag in the show, but slowly grows until he became my favorite character. The dude's brother dies. Something that helps him realize that being an awful person affects those around you. Starts to really redeem his character. Confronts his father for also being pretty awful. And then his father dies too. The ending of S4 completely made sure he would lose the last person he had left. Dong lost his brother, father and best friend, and it just seemed cruel to take away everyone from him after he'd finally become a fairly decent person. The end of the movie Law-Abiding Citizen. It was great up until then. Yeah, that was some straight up nonsensical balls. Clyde was supposed to be this super genius CIA fixer who spent his entire career devising elaborate methods of assassinating high value targets without ever setting foot in the same room. It was just preposterous that Nick would manage to outsmart him. The scene where they meet Clyde's former CIA contact, he explains that within the movie's universe Clyde is essentially overpowered as frick and unstoppable, so the ending defies the movie's own established logic. That ending still pisses me off 12 years later. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.